Hey everybody, welcome to the second chance on this week 6 video. Um, I'm not quite sure what's going on with it and why we have the problem. Panopto is the provided software, and I'm not a big fan of it. So most of the other videos have been in YouTube, and that's what this is. This was a YouTube video, so hopefully it'll work out for you. The stuff that you really need to think about with prosecutors, is the idea of the origin of the public prosecutor, where they came from, and the development of that, especially as law enforcement and the courts became more of a public function, and how that was represented, and then you can take some time to reflect on other systems of justice that are inquisitorial, where a person has the opportunity to prove their innocence to the court, as opposed to our system, in which the prosecution must prove the guilt of the person. If they fail to prove the guilt of the person to the satisfaction of the jury, or actually the trier of fact, then they are to be acquitted. So that's that's the job of the prosecutor. Now, the prosecutor's got tremendous power. We've already talked about this, but they make charging decisions. First off, and what I mean by that is, are they actually going to charge somebody, or are they going to, or are they not going to file charges? In this area, discretion has a chance for abuse. Is it somebody that is politically powerful within the jurisdiction, or even on a greater scale? Is it a friend of the DA? The DA can give subtle hints to the deputy DAs regarding how the charging should go. So that's the first area. Second area that they have tremendous power is in the plea bargain, and as to what's acceptable. Now, we'll talk about pleas later, but sometimes pleas are run by the judge. And prosecutor, I was working with Orange County DA's office and assisting one of the DAs, deputy DAs, in a plea bargaining session on some cases as an attorney, not as a police officer. And it was kind of a hoot, because the DA turns to me and says, "Hey, well, we don't even need to be here." Meaning that the judge, who was a former DA and a former police officer, was running the entire process. Pretty interesting thing to see in action. But generally, the district attorney will have a ton of discretion. Will suggest what a plea, acceptable plea for the people would be, and then the defendant can either accept or counteroffer. And plea bargaining, in many cases, is not a bargain. It's that the people are directly told, what the offer is going to be, and they can decide to accept or not. Now, of course, since the courts continue to move on, and we're not in trial all the time, most people will accept a plea, and there's a reason for that. If you think about it, is the reason because of the immense power of the DA to intimidate people? Is it the setting? I think the reason that a majority of people, the majority reason that people accept pleas is because they're guilty. They committed the offense. And depending upon which type of bargain they're doing, then it moves from there. So when you get to discretion, you get the topic of this week's paper, prosecutorial discretion. I think this is an incredibly interesting case, and it's actually very timely when you consider, what's going on in the country, in the past couple of weeks. And here you have the DA that either I gotta say that he probably believed the initial reports, and then saw that as a stepping stone for his political career. It fits right into, a narrative which is popular, and the narrative wouldn't be hard to sell. His only problem is that he decided to do it in the papers and in the press and the media. Um, and then when it turned out that it was, that it was not provable, and in fact would probably have resulted in an acquittal had those guys gone to trial. That was it was a serious blow, and of course he was later disbarred. Take a look at the federal court prosecutions there. I can tell you as a witness in federal court that it is very, very scary. The judge sits in a desk way high above the floor, and we have to look up to him, and it very said to be very, very intimidating. The prosecutorial staff is run out of the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office, and in all of the 94 district courts, you have USAAs, Assistant Attorney Generals, United States Assistant Attorney Generals, that are the prosecuting attorneys, and do the research on appeals and other things of that nature. But they're the kind of the guts of it. If you look at the state courts, the prosecutor, the head prosecutor, district attorney, is an elected official. Orange County is going through an election for their district attorney, and it's a rather heated politically election. And if you have a chance to follow that at all, you'll see some really interesting things as it goes back and forth. The challenger was the protege of the incumbent, and that relationship fell apart. And it was only later that they determined that they were that he started to run. And this has been a couple of different elections, so it's a pretty interesting deal. I think the one thing that I want you to understand too, I really want you to look at the misconduct, and I really want you to look at the process that one becomes the district attorney, and then also maybe the hiring for DA, and then from there, then I guess I should get a little comment. District attorneys have a lot of leeway in their hiring process. When they're hiring district attorneys or deputy DAs, they're of course hiring attorneys. And these attorneys must react to so the district attorney or deputy DA, when they go through the hiring process, it depends on who gets hired on a lot of different factors. Orange County DA's office is a great example. They went for years and hired a lot of people that graduated from a small school in Orange County, Western State, University College of Law, and then they began to shift and hire. As more people came back to Orange County to try to get jobs, they began to hire people from highly accredited schools. And so somebody that goes to a local school, passes the bar, does really well, super smart, may not have that good of a chance in acquiring a job. So if you're looking to go to law school, one of the things I suggest is go to the best one you can. Best one you can get into and best one you can afford. And the reason is because you will need that for your for school, right, or for hiring it later. That's going to be something that even in the public sector now is critical. And that may be a matter of changing times, the amount of people that are looking for jobs, the amount of work that one has to do once you get out of law school and you go into a private firm, very rigorous and very, very demanding in private firms, even, especially in big firms. Um, you know, lots of hours and hours and hours beyond a 40-hour workload. So that's one thing for you to think about if you're looking to go to law school and thinking about the DA's office. So the other section that I want you to remember and spend some time with are prosecutorial ethics and the idea of immunity. And what that is that what happens in the courtroom. Prosecutors are immune from civil suit. What happens outside the courtroom, there can be repercussions. Civil suits can flow from that. So watch that or understand that when you get through your reading, and hopefully this has been a little bit easier to take. Sorry about that. I'll